They say that in America, if you work twice as hard, you get half as much. Well, I worked 3 times as hard. I spent 25 years as a senior healthcare administrator, saving every bonus, skipping every vacation, and building a life that my grandmother could only dream of. I thought I had finally made it when I signed the deed to my $900,000 home in Sterling Estates. It was a gated community with fountains, marble statues, and a no soliciting sign that I thought would protect my peace. I was wrong. That gate wasn't there to keep the world out. It was there to keep me in a cage. I'm Hattie, and for the last 18 months, I have been in a literal war with a homeowners association that didn't see a successful professional when I moved in. They saw a threat to the neighborhood aesthetic. They tried to find me into poverty. They tried to get me fired from my job. They even tried to place a lien on my home while I was sleeping. But they forgot one thing. I didn't get to the top of my field by backing down from bullies. This isn't just a story about a Karen with a clipboard. This is a story about systemic harassment, hidden cameras, and a legal nuclear strike that ended with the HOA president losing her own home to pay my settlement. If you believe that every person deserves to live in peace in the home they paid for, I need you to do 2 things right now. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell. We are exposing the dark side of suburbia, and I need your voice in this fight. And hit that like button so the algorithm pushes this to every homeowner being bullied by their board. Now, let's go back to the day the dream turned into a nightmare. I remember the smell of the air the morning I moved in. It was April. The azaleas were in full bloom, and the neighborhood was so quiet you could hear the sprinklers clicking 3 houses away. I sat on my front porch with a cup of expensive coffee thinking, Hattie, you finally did it. You reached the soft life. I was the only Black woman on my block. I expected a few stares. I expected people to be a little cold until they realized I wasn't the help. I was the owner, but the welcome I got was colder than an Arctic winter. It started with a woman named Linda. She was the HOA president and lived directly across the street. She was the kind of woman who wore pearls to guard in. On my 3rd day, she walked across the street. I stood up, ready to be neighborly. "Can I help you?" I asked, smiling. She didn't smile back. She looked at my front door, which I had painted a deep, elegant navy blue. "The bylaws specify earth tones only, Hattie," she said. "No hello, no welcome to the block. Navy is a primary color. It's aggressive. It lowers the visual harmony of the cul-de-sac. You have 48 hours to repaint it alabaster sand or face a $50 a day fine." I looked at the house to my left. They had a bright forest green door. I looked to the right. They had a dark charcoal door. "What about their doors, Linda?" She didn't even blink. "Those were approved by the previous board. This board, my board, has a different vision. We want to restore the heritage of Sterling Estates." I should have known then. Heritage is a dog whistle. It's code for the way things were before you got here. I repainted the door. I didn't want trouble. I just wanted to enjoy my house. But that was my first mistake. When you give a bully an inch, they take a mile, and Linda was planning on taking my whole yard. Over the next month, the petty phase escalated into psychological warfare. I'd get home from a 12-hour shift at the hospital, and there would be a yellow slip tucked into my doorframe. Trash cans visible from the street. They were behind a fence. Unauthorized overnight guest. My sister stayed over for one night. Improper lawn ornamentation. I had a small stone bird bath in the back garden. I was being gaslit. I started walking around my house with a copy of the 200-page HOA handbook, checking every rule. I was stressed. I couldn't sleep. I started wondering if I was doing something wrong. Tasha, my best friend, told me I was crazy. She said, "Hattie, you're a high-level executive. You handle multi-million-dollar budgets. Why are you letting this woman with a clipboard make you feel like a child?" She was right, but it's hard to stay strong when you realize your neighbors are in on it. I'd wave at the mailman, and I'd see Linda's curtains twitch. I'd go for a jog, and the HOA security SUV would pull up behind me and crawl at 5 miles per hour, following me all the way to my driveway. I felt like a prisoner in a $900,000 cell. The turning point came when the HOA realized that fines weren't going to make me move. I was paying them. I was following every ridiculous rule they invented. So they decided to go for my throat. I received a call from the chief of staff at my hospital. He sounded concerned. "Hattie, we received a series of anonymous ethics complaints regarding your conduct," he said. My heart dropped. "Ethics? About what?" "The letters claim you are involved in community disputes that suggest a lack of emotional stability. They even sent photos of you disturbing the peace in your neighborhood. They're questioning if someone with your temperament should be overseeing patient care and hospital staff." I knew exactly what the photos were. They were pictures Linda had taken of me when I was yelling at the tow truck driver who tried to take my car out of my own garage. They had cropped the photos to make me look like the angry Black woman. They weren't just trying to get me out of the neighborhood anymore. They were trying to take my license. They were trying to end my career. That night, I didn't cry. I sat in my darkened living room and I realized that being nice was over. Being neighborly was a luxury I couldn't afford. I had been playing checkers, thinking this was about lawn height. Linda was playing a game of total destruction. I looked across the street at her house. The lights were on. She was probably sitting there, feeling proud of herself. She thought she had won. She thought a Black woman from the South Side was going to fold because she got a little pressure at work. She had no idea who she was dealing with. The next morning, I didn't go to the HOA office. I didn't call Linda. Instead, I called a tech firm that specializes in counter surveillance. I spent $15,000 of my savings. I turned my house into a digital fortress. I installed microphones that could pick up a whisper at the property line. I installed hidden cameras in the birdhouses, the fence posts, and the doorbell. And then I waited. I knew Linda couldn't help herself. She had a God complex. She needed to feel the power. 2 weeks later, I got the gold mine. My cameras caught Linda and the board secretary, a woman named Sarah, standing on the sidewalk right in front of my driveway. They thought I was at work. They didn't see the tiny lens in the stone pillar. Linda on audio. "The hospital didn't fire her yet. They said they need more documentation. We need to step it up, Sarah. If she's still here by July, the property values are going to dip. I saw a moving truck 2 streets over. People are getting nervous about the demographic shift. We need to find a way to trigger the foreclosure clause in the bylaws." Sarah, "Is that legal? I mean, she hasn't missed a payment." Linda, "It's legal if we can prove she's a chronic nuisance. I'll talk to the security guard. We'll have him log disturbances every night at 2 a.m. Her word against ours. Who are they going to believe? The president of the board or her?" I watched that footage on my iPad and my hands were shaking. Not from fear, from pure, unadulterated joy. I had them. I had the conspiracy. I had the racial bias. I had the intent. Most people would have run to the police or the news right then. But Uncle Marcus, my lawyer, told me to wait. Hattie, he said, 1 video is a misunderstanding. 10 videos is a pattern. 50 videos is a federal lawsuit. We're going to let them dig their own graves. So for the next 3 months, I played the victim perfectly. I let them find me. I let them tow my car again. I even stayed quiet when they sent a mental health welfare check to my door because Linda told the police she heard screaming coming from my house when I was home alone reading a book. Every time they did something, I logged it. I had a spreadsheet that would make an auditor cry. The date, the violation, the video file named video, the witness. I also hired a private investigator to look into Linda, and oh, what a web she had woven. It turns out Linda wasn't just a mean neighbor, she was a fraud. She had been using HOA funds to pay for her personal landscaping and neighborhood security, which was really just her cousin Mike in a golf cart. She had been embezzling from the Heritage Fund for years. She was so busy looking at my grass that she didn't realize I was looking at her bank accounts. I found out that Sterling Estates had a master deed from 1954. It still had an old illegal restrictive covenant that said the homes could only be sold to Caucasians. It was legally unenforceable after the Fair Housing Act of 1968, but Linda had actually referenced it in a board meeting memo saying they needed to uphold the spirit of the founders. She was a dinosaur, and she didn't realize the meteor was already in the sky. When we finally filed the lawsuit, the HOA responded with arrogance. They tried to countersue me for defamation and harassment. They thought they could intimidate me into a small settlement and a non-disclosure agreement, NDA. They didn't realize I didn't want their money, I wanted their chairs. The day of the deposition, Linda walked in with a smirk. She sat across from me and Marcus in a high-rise conference room. Marcus started the questioning. He was calm. He was polite. He asked her about the bird bath. He asked her about the navy blue door. Mrs. Sterling, Marcus said. Yes, that was her last name. She actually thought she owned the place. You've issued 42 violations to Hattie in 18 months. Can you tell me how many violations you issued to the other 24 houses on her block combined? I don't keep track of that, she said, looking at her nails. I do, Marcus said, sliding a document across the table. The answer is 0, not 1. Not for the boat in Bill's driveway. Not for the bright purple door on house 402. Not for the 3 teenagers living in house 409 who have loud parties every Friday. Those are different, she said. How are they different, Linda? I asked, speaking for the first time. Is it because their demographic fits your heritage? Her lawyer tried to stop her, but Linda was too far gone. She was used to being the boss. She was used to people being afraid of her. It's about standards, she snapped. We built this place to be a certain way. You come in here with your big job and your fancy car, and you think you can just change the feel of our community? We have a right to protect what's ours. And what exactly is yours? Marcus asked. He then reached into his briefcase and pulled out a laptop. He turned it around and hit play. It was the video of her and Sarah on my driveway. The audio was crystal clear. If she's still here by July, the property values are going to dip. We need to find a way to trigger the foreclosure clause. The color drained from Linda's face. She looked like she had seen a ghost. Her lawyer put his head in his hands. He knew the case was over. He knew that foreclosure clause comment was prima facie evidence of a conspiracy to commit housing fraud. Linda, Marcus said quietly, We aren't just suing the HOA, we are suing you personally for tortious interference and defamation. And because you used HOA funds to pay for your security cousin to harass my client, the insurance company is going to deny your claim. You're on your own. She started shaking. She tried to say it was doctored. She tried to say I had invaded her privacy. You were on my property, Linda, I said. You were standing on the land I paid for, trying to figure out how to steal it. You're not a president, you're a thief. The settlement was the largest in the history of the county for a housing discrimination case. $500,000. But it wasn't the money that felt good. It was the Clause 4 of the settlement agreement. The HOA board was dissolved. A court-appointed receiver was brought in to manage the neighborhood. But more importantly, because Linda had acted outside the scope of her duties by targeting me and embezzling funds, the HOA insurance refused to pay her portion of the damages. She was personally on the hook for $200,000. She didn't have it. She had spent all her money trying to look rich while she was stealing from the Heritage Fund. 3 months later, I was sitting on my front porch. My door was painted navy blue again. My hibiscus were blooming in their ceramic pots. I saw a moving truck pull up across the street, but it wasn't a new neighbor moving in. It was Linda moving out. She was carrying a box of her own garden tools. She looked old, she looked tired, she looked like a woman who had realized too late that the world had changed and left her behind. She looked at me. I didn't yell. I didn't hold up a sign. I just sat there in my soft life, sipping my coffee, and gave her a small, respectful wave. The kind of wave you give to someone you'll never see again. Sterling Estates is different now. We have a new board. We have a block party committee that actually invites everyone. And the best part? I'm the new vice president. My first order of business, we removed the gate. Because a community that needs a gate to feel safe isn't a community, it's a hideout. And we don't need to hide anymore. So I'm asking you, have you ever been told you don't fit in a place you worked your whole life to reach? Have you dealt with a Linda who thinks she owns the air you breathe? Tell me your story in the comments. I'm reading them all. And if you're in the middle of a fight right now, don't fold. Get the receipts. Because justice doesn't just happen. You have to build the system to win it. This is Hattie for HOA No Way. Subscribe for more stories of justice. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.